From frustration to mastery, Serena's experience with Apple and the power of persevering through a learning curve. Serena decided to buy an Apple computer in 2010. And when he got it, he was struggling with the learning curve. Frustration led him to get rid of that Apple computer and go back to a PC instead. And that's what we're going to talk about in this lesson is persevering through the learning curve because, spoiler alert, he is now an avid Mac user and almost everything he does in all of these videos, his writing, reading, are all done with his Mac. So a few years later, after that first experience where he got the Mac, couldn't figure it out, gave it back and went back to a PC, he decided to make a second attempt at becoming a Mac user and buying a Mac computer. Now this time, he was mentally prepared to handle the learning curve. And boy, was he glad he did. Because he made it through the learning curve and now he has fallen in love with Apple and he only uses Apple products and they are perfect for everything he's trying to do in regards to his goals and things he wants to accomplish. But the bottom line is learning curves are challenging, especially when you have loftier goals. The bigger the goal, the bigger the challenges, the bigger the learning curve. And that's why you have to be perseverant, right? You've got to learn the art of persevering. But climbing the learning curve is a process, not a destination. Too many people think, oh, I need to learn something. I learned it. Here we are. No, no, no. It is a process. It's a learning curve, not a learning line. And again, if Serena had not put the time into that learning curve to learn how to use the Mac products, he would be putting out the products and things that he's done today. But there are 4 parts that Serena will tell you about in the learning curve process. There's unaware, semi-aware, bottleneck, and then aware. And those are the phases you want to go through the learning curve. Now, the better you get at those 4 phases, the quicker you go through learning curves. And remember, there's not just one learning curve for life. There's a learning curve for Serena with his Mac computer. There's a learning curve with new software. There's a learning curve with learning new skills. Every aspect of life, we have these learning curves. So it's important that we learn how to go through those 4 phases as quickly as possible. But you need to be open-minded in that first phase, and that's the unaware stage, right? So unaware is you don't know that you don't know. And sometimes there's some comfort and safety in that position. But what you have to realize is I realize that I don't know this and I'm willing to open my mind and learn that skill. So once you acknowledge that there's always more to learn and that you don't know everything and that you don't know sometimes what you don't know, that's that first powerful step in that unaware phase. You know, Serena will tell you that the ancient Greeks emphasized the value of embracing fundamental ignorance. And when we hear the word ignorance, sometimes it has a negative connotation, but being willing to embrace fundamental ignorance that we don't know everything and there's always more to learn only helps us improve personally, professionally, and again, helps us move through that learning curve faster. We go from that unaware to the second stage or second phase, and that is the semi-aware stage. And this is where you know what you don't know, right? So before you didn't know what you didn't know, but you opened your mind and now you realize there's stuff out there, and that's what moves you to the semi-aware stage. Right now I know what I don't know. So I'm cool with fully understanding that I don't know everything right now, but I'm willing to learn. And that's where the second phase is. Now you know what you don't know, but you're willing to take those steps in order to learn it. Serena had some personal experiences with author Brendon Burchard's work where these sort of insights clicked after some lessons. Stage 3 or phase 3 is the bottleneck. And this is where the work happens. Some people call this conscious competence. It's where you've got to think about everything in that learning curve. And it's really hard. And you're putting all this effort in because this is where you're trying to become really, really conscious about what you're doing. Again, this is the blood, sweat, and tears phase. This is the third phase. And again, as we get better at this learning curve, we'll move through it quicker. But now it's like things are thrown at you and it takes a struggle and there are times you want to give up. But if you just stick through this part of the learning curve, that's where the real magic will happen. But again, this is the challenging piece that you just have to learn to push through, right? The bottleneck part. And then once you put that work in, you move on to the fourth and final stage or final phase, and that's the aware stage. And now you know what you're doing. It's become more of a habit, more of a process. Not that there won't be challenges along the way, but it just becomes a little bit of who you are. So take health as an example. You want to live a healthier lifestyle, right? So at first, in that unaware stage, you don't know what you don't know, right? You don't know, and then all of a sudden something clicks, and now you're in that semi-aware where like, shoot, I really should take better care of my health, but I'm not sure even where to start. And then you move into the bottleneck where now it's about, moving more and making better choices with food and getting more sleep. All those things where you got to be very conscious and intentional about doing all of that. And then eventually you become someone who lives a healthy lifestyle. And that's that final aware stage, right? And again, even though there are always different aspects of this learning curve, there are moments where when you get good at one, it improves all throughout. So it improves throughout all of your learning curves and you're able to move through it more quickly. But mastery at the furthest point of that learning curve is achievable with time and effort. Sometimes things seem like they're out of your reach and you're just never going to get there. But again, with time and effort and understanding the 4 phases of the learning curve, you really can learn anything that you want to. And one of the keys Serena will tell you is focus on a few disciplines at a time, right? Small steps. Focus on one little thing because one little thing, then one little thing, then one little thing. Those small steps lead to big change. He also understands through this process the value of help from other people and a good network. So in order to process that learning curve and go through it quicker, you need other people, their influences, their help. Because to go at it alone, that's going to slow your journey through the learning curve. But when you have the right people around you supporting you, you're going to move through it that much quicker. But one of the frustrating aspects when it comes to the learning curve and when it comes to learning in general is once you have the awareness and you're going through the process, you do uncover more challenges. Now that sounds counterintuitive, right? If I learn, I just continue to improve. But again, even though it's a curve, it's not a linear curve. You don't just improve, get better, and then challenges disappear. As you learn more challenges appear. And you realize there's more work to do, right? With that healthy lifestyle that I was talking about before as an example, when you're going through that process, there are going to be challenges, right? That pop up. There are going to be things you've got to adjust, that you got to take into account. But as long as you're aware of those challenges and you're willing to make the sacrifices because your goal is worth it, then you're going to be successful in moving through that learning curve. But there is an emotional ebb and flow. Sometimes we're super high, sometimes we're low. And the thing is, emotions are unpredictable. They come at us. And by the way, they're real. There's nothing worse than somebody telling you, oh, don't be so sad, don't be so angry, because that's what you're feeling. But the key there is to accept that emotions are there and they are real and they are what we feel. And we're going to give them the little attention that they deserve, but we're not going to let that ebb and flow take us off track when we're moving through the learning curve trying to accomplish goals. Because one thing to know is that emotions are determined on a lot of external factors, other people around us, the weather, the economy, all of these different things. Even sports teams can influence our emotions, which is kind of ridiculous when you think about it, but it's true. I get upset when my team loses, and I'm a Clevelander, so my teams lose a lot. So that's the ebb and flow that I've had to deal with. Serena has all sorts of things with cerebral palsy and life in general that create this ebb and flow of emotions, but we realize it, we give it the little attention, we accept that they're real, and we make sure that we don't let it hinder our progress. So just emphasizing that emotions happen and they're there allows us to have a little more control over them. And again, then we don't allow those emotions to stop our progress through that learning curve. The other thing too is, when you talk about excitement and motivation, those ebb and flow as well, right? When we set goals, we're all fired up from the get-go. but it wanes, right? We're not always motivated. We're not always excited. And sometimes we feel we can get a little bored or resentment creeps in. All these things are real. Again, emotion, motivation, all of those things. Serena describes it as it's like shade under a tree, right? Sometimes motivation's there and it's great, and other times it's gone. Just like sometimes under a tree, depending on where the sun's at, there's a lot of shade, and other times there is no shade at all. But again, the first thing is to accept the fact that that's just the reality of it. Once we've accepted, then we can control our reaction to that reality. But it's important that we keep working on our goals no matter what challenges are there, where we're at in the learning curve, how motivated we feel that day. Now, how do you do that? That's the real key, right? How do we stay on track when we're not quite as motivated or things have gotten a little challenging or we're stuck in the learning curve? It's having that solid, crystal clear vision of what you want to accomplish. That is the thing that's going to keep you on track. You need to maintain that vision. You need to know where you're trying to go, what that ultimate goal is, and how you will feel and how life will be when you accomplish that goal. Because when you do that, that's going to be the key to keeping you on track when motivation fades or challenges seem insurmountable or we feel stuck in the learning curve. It's that long-term vision of those long-term goals, the why behind it, what's going to happen in your life when you achieve it, that keeps you there. So oftentimes, as we go through life and we have these goals, we will have setbacks. Let's say your consulting company is going really strong and you've got 5 new leads, and after all this time and effort, you only close 1. You will lose a little motivation. You will feel a little dejected. But if you understand what you ultimately want to accomplish with your consulting firm, and that vision is clear, and you know the difference you'll make in the world and the difference you'll make in your life and how it'll improve everything and how that's going to feel, that allows you to stay tough in the pocket when you didn't have the results you were looking for. Or back to our health example, you're getting healthier and you're losing weight, and then you travel for a week and all of a sudden there's a setback, and instead of losing a few pounds, you gained a few pounds. It's very easy to let that stuff stop you in your tracks and make you want to give up. But if you know the ultimate healthy person that you want to be, and that vision is crystal clear, that's what keeps you in track when things are in flux. So understanding that you're going to go through fluctuations, go through challenges, and the art of succeeding through that is to maintain that focus. And to maintain that focus, you constantly need to, again, focus on your why, your vision, your goals, and make sure that's really crystal clear. Because again, no matter what life throws at you, no matter where you're at in the learning curve, no matter what challenges arise, if you've got that crystal clear vision and focus, that's what's going to keep you on track when it's not as easy or you're not as motivated.